Guttation is nothing but expulsion of water in the form of water droplets through specialized structures called hydrothodes, which are found on the leaf margins. Diffusion is a movement of molecules from a region of higher concentration to a region of lower concentration. So roots can also be called as the sink or the consumption. Hello everyone, welcome back to session 5 of this chapter 11 of your syllabus called Transport in Plants. Myself, B. Shobharani from the Department of Biology, Vidyashram Pre-University College, the Temple of Excellence. Hope you remember in the last session we studied about the stomata and we studied about two very important processes. One is called guttation, the other one is called transpiration. What is guttation? Guttation is nothing but expulsion of water in the form of water droplets through specialized structures called hydrothodes, which are found on the leaf margins. Whereas transpiration is the expulsion of water in the form of water vapor through structures called stomata. As we know that the process of transpiration, there are three types of transpiration. One is called stomatal transpiration, which takes place, the process of transpiration which takes place through stomata. The second one is called the lenticular transpiration, which is called the process of transpiration takes place through specialized structures called lenticels. Lenticels are nothing but ruptured epidermal cells. And the third type of transpiration is through cuticle. Cuticle is nothing but a thick layer that is found on the outermost next to the epidermis of a leaf and a stem. But the maximum amount of process of transpiration takes place through stomata. And we also studied about the structure of stomata. So stomata is nothing but stomatal apparatus. So stomatal apparatus consists of two bean-shaped structures called the guard cells and having an opening called stoma or stomatal aperture through which the exchange of gases is going to take place. And two bean-shaped guard cells are laden with chloroplasts which help in photosynthesis, and the surrounding cells are called as the epidermal cells or the accessory cells or the subsidiary cells. And we also studied that dicot leaf, which is called as a dorsiventral leaf, will have two surfaces or two epidermis, upper epidermis and lower epidermis. As you see in this picture, this is the picture of a dicot leaf. Dicot leaf will have two epidermis. The one is called the upper epidermis and it will have lower epidermis. Hence it is called dorsiventral leaf. It is called as dorsiventral leaf, having two epidermis, upper epidermis and lower epidermis. So upper epidermis will have less number of stomata. Whereas lower epidermis will have more number of stomata. Whereas in case of monocot leaf will have, hence it is called what? It is called hypostomatic. Hence it is called hypostomatic. Hypo means below. So the lower epidermis will have more number of stomatal openings. Whereas in case of monocot leaf, both the surfaces, so you cannot differentiate it into upper epidermis and lower epidermis. Both the surfaces are one and the same, and hence the name isobilateral leaf. And the stomata there, it is called amphistomatic, right? So now, and here you can see this is the structure of a dicot leaf, and here you can see the palisade chlorenchyma, which are elongated cells laden with chloroplasts. So what is palisade chlorenchyma? It is a modified type of parenchyma. Then here you can see the spongy parenchyma, spongy chlorenchyma, which is having large intercellular spaces filled with. So a dicot leaf will have two types of chlorenchyma. Chlorenchyma is a modified parenchyma tissue. So one is palisade chlorenchyma, which is characterized by what? Elongated cells and compactly arranged cells without any intercellular spaces. Here the other one is the lower epidermis will have spongy chlorenchyma, which are spherical in shape, laden with chloroplasts and have large intercellular spaces. But in case of monocot leaf will not have this differentiated chlorenchyma. It will have only one type of chlorenchyma called spongy chlorenchyma. Here you can see the stomata. So the stomata are more in the lower epidermis. So this is called upper epidermis. This is called upper epidermis and this is called lower epidermis. This is called lower epidermis. So the opening of stomata is aided. As I said, the stomata remains open during daytime and closes during daytime, whereas the hydathodes are open throughout the day, right? So the opening of stomata is aided due to the orientation of microfibrils fibers in the cell walls of guard cells. So in the last session you have seen the structure of stomatal apparatus where you have come across microfibers. Right. So the opening of stomata is aided due to the orientation of microfibers in the cell walls of guard cells. So cellulose microfibers are oriented radially. It easier for the stoma to, so that it is easier for the stoma to open. And the stomata open during daytime and when the guard cells are turgid. What do you mean by guard cells are turgid? So turgid guard cells means turgid guard cells means that which has more water. The surrounding cells will have less water. So what will happen? So during the stoma open during daytime when the guard cells are turgid, and remain closed at night when the guard cells are flaccid. So when they are turgid, it opens, and when it is flaccid, it closes. So what do you mean by turgid cell? Cell having more number of water. So guard cells, if it is having more number of water content, it is called as a turgid cell, guard cell. So during night, what will happen? It closes. So all the contents, it becomes a flaccid cell. So when all the contents of the cell move out, it will become a flaccid cell. Just like you blow air in a balloon, that is called as a turgid cell. Then when you blow out all the air from the balloon, it is called as a flaccid cell. So the opening of stomata is aided due to the orientation of microfibers in the cell walls of guard cells, and cellulose microfibers are oriented radially, which is easier for the stoma to open. The stomata open during daytime when the guard cells are turgid and remain closed at night when the guard cells are flaccid. So what is the role of transpiration? As I said, transpiration, according to a scientist, transpiration is called as a necessary evil. Plants cannot avoid transpiration because the stomata has to remain open during daytime for the exchange of gases to take place. As you know, carbon dioxide is one very important raw material for photosynthesis. So it cannot close during daytime and it cannot avoid transpiration. As we know, transpiration is directly proportional to the rate of temperature, is directly proportional to the temperature. More the temperature, more will be the rate of transpiration. As I said, particularly plants growing in xerophytic conditions where the temperature is very high, the plants cannot avoid transpiration, but still they come out with certain strategies or mechanisms to avoid transpiration. So, role of transpiration or the advantage of transpiration. Let us know what are the advantages. See, transpiration has both advantages as well as disadvantages. Now, let us understand the advantageous aspects of transpiration. So, transpiration creates transpiration pull. Imagine, as we know that you just take the coconut tree or eucalyptus tree, so very tall trees, then how is water conducted? Like in our daily life, like we use pump sets to pump water, right? Motor to pump water from the sump to the overhead tank. But imagine such tall trees like eucalyptus and coconut tree, how will the water rise up to such greater heights? So it is because of the transpiration pull. So I think all of us know in summer, the rate of transpiration is very high, and that is the reason why plants require more amount of water. The more you water the plants, the more the water transpires and the plants require, and it becomes dry. So because of this transpiration, a transpiration pull is created and that is responsible for the absorption and transport in plants. Imagine, to even the food and water is conducted to such greater heights. How is this possible? It is because of this transpiration pull. So as I said, it is called as a suction force or a negative force with which the contents of the cell move from one cell to another, from turgid to flaccid. Flaccid will become turgid, turgid will become flaccid. So like this, a transpiration pull is created, and that transpiration pull creates absorption and transport in plants. Then supplies water for photosynthesis. Yes, of course, transpiration is one. As I said, even the moisture content enters the plant body through this stomatal opening, where water is also one of the raw materials. What are the 4 raw materials for photosynthesis? Water, sunlight, carbon dioxide, and chlorophyll. All these 4 are very important requirements for photosynthesis. So the carbon dioxide and water is coming from through the and also it absorbs the water moisture content. So supplies water for photosynthesis. Then transport minerals from the soil to all parts of the body, plant's body. Yes, of course, the mineral contents, as we already studied in the previous chapter, mineral nutrition, micronutrients and macronutrients, which are very much required for the plant growth and development. So as we know, all these minerals are found in the soil. So the uptake of the mineral, that is what we say, absorption of water and dissolved mineral solutes. So transport minerals from the soil to all parts of the plant. As we know, the deficiency of these minerals, and if sufficient quantity of minerals is not provided to the plant body, definitely it is going to affect the growth and development. So how are these minerals made available? It is due to this what you call transpiration. So transport of minerals from the soil to all parts of the plant body. Then cools leaf surfaces. Of course, as I already said, transpiration also will create cooling effect. Like we prefer to sit below a tree than in an open space. Why? Because the cooling effect what we get from the leaf. So cools leaf surfaces sometimes 10 to 15 degrees by evaporative cooling. So the water vapor that comes out through transpiration will keep the atmosphere very cool. So these are all some of the advantages of transpiration. Though transpiration is called as a necessary evil, but it has a lot of advantages, like creates transpiration pull for absorption and transport in plants, then supplies water for photosynthesis, transport minerals from the soil to all parts of the plants, then cools leaf surfaces sometimes 10 to 15 degrees by evaporative cooling. Now, maintains the shape and structure of the plants by keeping cells turgid. So, maintains the shape and structure of the plants by keeping cells turgid, right? Then, measurements reveal that the forces generated by transpiration can pressure sufficient to lift a xylem-sized column of water over 130 meters high. See, imagine the pressure that is created through the transpiration pull can create a series of columns of water columns which can uptake or which can lift water to up to a high of how much? The 130 meters. So imagine that is the capacity of the transpiration. So the transpiration pull that is created will create what? Pressure, sufficient pressure to lift xylem-sized column of water over 130 meters high. So that is the reason, as I said, even tall trees are supplied with sufficient water and minerals. It is all because of this transpiration and the transpiration pull. So all these are the advantages of transpiration. But there are some very important factors which is going to affect the rate of transpiration. Now let us understand what are all the factors that is going to affect the rate of transpiration. Factors affecting transpiration. One is temperature, light, humidity, wind speed, number and distribution of stomata, water status of a plant. All these are the very important factors which are responsible for affecting the rate of transpiration. As I already said, temperature, as you know, it is directly proportional to the rate of transpiration. More the temperature, more will be the rate of transpiration. So, what are the advantages? Some more, like we have come across the other advantages. Maintains the shape and structure of the plants by keeping the cells turgid. Then measurement reveals that the forces generated by transpiration can create sufficient pressure to help the xylem to lift water up to 130 meters high. Then what are the factors affecting transpiration? It might be temperature, then light, humidity, wind speed. More the wind speed, more will be the rate of transpiration. The more the number of stomatal opening, more will be the rate of transpiration. Then the distribution of stomata, number and distribution of stomata, water status of a plant, all these are the factors which are going to affect the rate of transpiration. Now, uptake and so that was all about the transpiration, the advantages and the factors affecting the rate of transpiration. So, uptake and transport of mineral nutrients. So, as we know, most of the minerals that are present in the soil are absorbed in the form of ions. So, ions are absorbed by the roots by passive and active transport. So, what do you mean by active process and passive process? For example, osmosis, diffusion, we call it as a passive process. So, diffusion, then one more, that is osmosis. We call them as passive process. Then one more called active transport. It is an active process. What do you mean by diffusion? As we already studied, diffusion is a movement of molecules from a region of higher concentration to a region of lower concentration. What is the osmosis? Osmosis is a very important physiological process wherein the movement of molecules might be a liquid, solid or a gaseous molecule from a region of higher concentration to a region of lower concentration through a semi-permeable membrane. We have already studied two types of experiments that are done to demonstrate osmosis. One is called the potato osmoscope experiment. The other one is called Thistle funnel experiment, right? So these are called as passive process. Why it is called passive process? Because there is no expenditure of energy. No expenditure of energy. Why it is called active process? Because there is expenditure of energy or requirement of energy in the form of ATP molecules. So ions are absorbed by the roots by passive and active transport. The active uptake of ions requires what? ATP energy. As I already said, the active process requires energy in the form of ATP molecules. As we know, ATP molecules are called as what? The energy currency of a cell. So, specific proteins, I think we have already come across one more type of transport in plants method called facilitated diffusion. What is facilitated diffusion? What is facilitated diffusion? There are specialized protein molecules called aquaporins which act as channels for transporting the solid molecules across the cell membrane. So, such movement is called as facilitated diffusion. So, the active uptake of ions requires ATP, specific protein in membranes of root hair cells actively pump ions from the soil into the cytoplasm of epidermal cells and then xylem. The further transport of ions to all parts of the plant is carried through the transpiration stream. So, what are the methods that are involved in the uptake and transport of mineral nutrients? As you know, nutrients are very much required for the plant growth and development, and they are made available to all the parts of the plant body through xylem and phloem. As we know, xylem is a water conducting tissue and phloem is a food conducting tissue. And how these two very important vascular tissues or complex tissues are involved in the transport in plants. So, ions, as I said, they are absorbed. Most of the mineral nutrients are absorbed in the form of ions by the roots by passive and active transport. And the active uptake of ions requires ATP. As I said, passive process will take place through simple diffusion or osmosis or through specialized aquaporins or protein channels called facilitated diffusion. But active transport requires energy in the form of ATP molecules. So, there is expenditure of energy, requirement of energy, hence it is called as active process. There are specific proteins in membranes of root hair cells actively pump ions from the soil into the cytoplasm of epidermal cells and then xylem. The further transport, as I said, most of the transport of the mineral salts and nutrients, water takes place through transpiration pull. Then the pressure or mass flow hypothesis. This is a very, very important hypothesis. What do you mean by hypothesis? Hypothesis means it's an assumption. So, it is called as an assumption. So, mass flow hypothesis. This is very important from examination point of view. Now, let us understand what is this mass flow hypothesis. So, this theory mass flow hypothesis was proposed by a scientist by name Ernest Munch. So I think your chocolate name is also called as Munch. So this theory was proposed by Ernest Munch in 1930, and hence it is also called as Munch hypothesis. It is called as Munch hypothesis. So this theory, so what is the principle that is involved in this theory, or what is this theory all about? So this theory states that a turgor pressure gradient drives the unidirectional mass flow of solutes and water through sieve tubes of the phloem. So particularly the translocation of solutes, that is the food substances or the solutes. As we know, phloem is a food conducting tissue, and the flow of the food from the phloem is unidirectional, from upwards to downwards. Just like water is transported through xylem from downwards to upwards, food is transported from upwards to downwards. So, so the leaf, as you know, the food is prepared in the leaf. So leaf is called as a source. Leaf is called as a source, whereas root is a receiving end of the plant body, so it is called as sink. So this whole process is all about source and sink. So here, as we know, water flows by osmosis. Here you can see the mechanism here. The sugar, as you know, the plants prepare, the prepared food of plants is called starch, which is prepared in the mesophyll. Mesophyll will have what? More of chlorenchyma tissue, and the food is prepared in the mesophyll of a leaf. So sugar enters sieve tube, and you know, the phloem is made up of 4 elements: sieve cell, sieve tube, and companion cells, which are the conducting elements of phloem, which is a food conducting tissue. So here you can see enters sieve tubes, water flows by osmosis of phloem. So here is the root. So this is called as source, and root is called as the sink. So sugar leaves sieve tube for metabolism and storage. Water follows by osmosis. So sugar solution flows to regions of low turgor pressure. So tip of the stem, water flows by osmosis. High the turgor pressure. So the pressure or mass flow hypothesis, which was put across by Ernest Munch in 1930, is also called as Munch hypothesis. And this theory states that a turgor pressure gradient drives the unidirectional mass flow of solutes and water through sieve tubes of the phloem. So the food is more, solutes are more in the source and less in the sink. As we know, against the constant gradient means what? Movement of molecules from a region of higher concentration to a region of lower concentration. The food molecules flow en masse through the sieve tubes. The food molecules flow en masse through the sieve tubes along a turgor pressure gradient created between supply, that is the source, and that is the mesophyll tissue of a leaf, and the consumption, that is the roots. So roots can also be called as the sink or the consumption. So the food molecules flow en masse through the sieve tubes along the turgor pressure gradient created between the source and the sink. So turgor pressure means what? As I said, what is turgor pressure? The pressure exerted by the contents of the cell on the wall of the cell is called as turgor pressure. So turgor pressure means the pressure on a cell wall that is created within the cell by the entry of water. So a turgid cell will have more turgor pressure. So the contents of the cell will exert pressure on the cell wall, and to counteract, the cell wall will exert equal and opposite pressure. So always that is turgor pressure is equal to WP. Turgor pressure is equal to wall pressure. So the pressure gradient causes movement of fluid from source end to sink through sieve tube. Solutes in the flowing fluid are carried passively from source to sink. Mass flow. So the food molecules flow en masse through the sieve tubes along a turgor pressure gradient created between supply, that is the source end, and mesophyll tissue of a leaf, and the consumption, that is the roots. So turgor pressure means the pressure of on a cell wall that is created within the cell by the entry of water. Pressure gradient causes what? Movement of fluid from source end to sink through sieve tubes. Solutes in the flowing fluid are carried passively from source to sink. Mass flow. Hence, it is this whole concept is called as mass flow hypothesis or Munch flow hypothesis. Hope you all have understood all the concepts what I have explained in this particular session. So as I said, this is a very important physiological process, and even the knowledge what we gain, we just water the plants, and even how we don't even think how the water is transported to different parts of the plant body, and how the food that is prepared by the plant, as in even plants also require food or energy to carry out its various physiological activities. So how is the food passed on from, as you know, the food is prepared in the leaves, which will be in the topmost region. So how it is going to reach the root? All these are the concepts which we need to understand from biological point of view. So I'll be back in the coming session with some more interesting and the last concepts of this particular chapter called transport in plants. Till then, goodbye and thank you.